Welcome to the Log Time Podcast. This week, we're back on our episodes dissecting a particular anime at a time with Guilty Crown. Hell of a ride on this one, and not really all for the right reasons, but we'll get there. So, let's jump into it.
So for a cast that's been such a long time in the tubes, long time coming, boys, was it worth the wait?
No. I can tell you affirmatively.
Okay, third, it's a no. There is, in Guilty Crown, a good anime somewhere. The unfortunate part is, the good anime in Guilty Crown is actually the parts of anime that Guilty Crown rips off of other anime.
That's an oof, you know.
I think that's fair to say.
Here's the thing. I really enjoyed Guilty Crown. Well, I wouldn't say I really enjoyed it.
It's your guilty pleasure? Is that what you're going to say? Is that what you're going to say?
I thought Guilty Crown did some interesting stuff, and it was kind of fun to watch for the first maybe, 10 episodes or so.
Yeah.
Because I think it has some interesting concepts, and the way in which it actually addresses this sort of idea of a Japanese liberation front kind of thing, backed up by weird science tech and mechs and things of that nature. It's really neat. And so when we were originally watching this, I got a good 7-8 episodes through or so.
Same, yeah.
And I thought it was pretty neat. But things got kind of delayed. And by the time we started rewatching this, I had recently started watching Code Geass. And I've watched the first season, and I was rewatching parts of Guilty Crown. I was consistently thinking, this feels weirdly familiar. Very weirdly familiar. And I'm not going to make this a cast about Code Geass at all.
That's
but
for
just
another
real
time.
quick. Just real quick, a couple comparisons. So Shu's Void genome is called, what do they call it? The Kingly Power? Something like that? King's Power?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. I don't ever remember a formal title, but it's something, that's what they refer to it as, like the power of a king or something like that. King.
The power of the Geass in Code Geass is called the King's Power. The general idea of Code Geass is that there is a rebel group trying to liberate Japan, and some of the members are secretly high school students that live a double life. Including a sickly red hair who is actually an ace mech pilot.
Okay, continue.
Yep. Our main character unwittingly gets this incredible power to work with that has the ability to manipulate others and things of that nature, and to work with their powers. It is given to them by a mysterious girl.
Okay. I'm following you.
Yep. And there are a lot of odd archetypes. There's a really weird, eccentric scientist that, is kind of a goofball, but can also be a real hard ass. There's just a lot of stylistic baseline similarities. There's even a point where in Code Geass, after a major event has happened, they go back and actually occupy the school at one point to take control and have that as a central base of operations. And the thing about Guilty Crown was that a lot of the parts that I thought were interesting and really enjoyed were the parts that were kind of just ripping off Code Geass, I realized. Because once we got to about episode 12, it was really kind of starting to do its own thing with the development of, like, the Greater Void genome outbreak and all that jazz
and
with
then
the apocalypse
mana
virus.
and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's very much doing its own thing at that point. At which point it starts to really suck a lot.
Yeah.
And just be pretty solidly bad.
I mean, to be fair, I wasn't sold on this show whenever I was watching through the first few episodes of it. But that was me personally.
Yeah. And here's the thing. Like, I would not say that I was really sold either. I thought it was entertaining. I thought it was a fun kind of shonen romp sort of thing. And honestly, like, the show has a lot of good things going for it. It's a gorgeous show. Like, it has really high production values. It looks very pretty.
The action is very wonderful with all the mechs and the various things like that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. A ton of, like,
I was actually really surprised by that. I was thinking, like, older show. I mean, it's like 2011. It's not that old, I guess.
Right,
yeah.
But even
like,
still.
I wasn't expecting, like, wow, this show, like looks freaking, like, the CG was actually pretty good for its time, I feel like.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, like, I feel like it's even pretty good for now because it does a good job of actually, like, blending into the 2D itself.
I would argue that it definitely
doesn't look out of place.
Very colorful at times when it wants to be.
Yeah.
They do a lot of neat stuff with the various effects of, like, either the crystals or the various lights that are representing people's
voids.
Voids, thank you.
Yeah. Like, it's a gorgeous show, y'all.
I also want to point out that soundtrack is fucking sick. Weird as it is named.
Yeah. That's Solana for you. That's what he does. He just names it random crap.
Yeah, when Solano's involved, it's just weird shit, but man, it's so good.
It's so good.
It's good, yeah.
Yeah.
I want to bring that up later because there's a specific point at the end of the show that was just like, musically that was beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the thing is, and I'm going to just say this from the start so we get this out here. This show did do some good things. We got a few good things out of this show. Egoist was sworn for this show, which, bless you. And
very good.
We got some music out of Solano. I mean, like, we got one of the best OPs pretty much ever. My Dearest is so good. It's fucking perfect.
It's pretty iconic for the show, even though it's not the one that's named after the show, which is kind of funny. So,
and I mean that's it. That was what was good with the show.
You wouldn't call the writing good?
No, hang on.
Okay.
We'll get to that.
Right.
I'm sure.
I did forget something. You're right. The other good thing that came out of the show was his name was Daryl.
His name was Daryl.
The weird the blonde mech pilot boy. His name was Daryl.
Oh yeah.
He was one of the few decent characters, even though he had no reason to be there. He had no real relevance to the plot. He was just kind of an angsty teen with daddy issues, and you know what, man? He was okay.
I also want to point out that there is a point in time in which our main character has some serious PTSD from watching somebody that he knew very well die in front of him. I thought that was very well handled on that front, particularly in the frame of reference of, like, a Japanese society, because you have this person that's actively and visibly hurt, and then no one's really reaching out to help him in that situation. And so he's just kind of having to shoulder it all himself and doesn't know what to do with it. That said, the road to recovery was, like, literally 16 hours, and then he was back to normal. So that wasn't so great, but at least the way that it was initially presented, I do have to, like, salute them on that. That was actually well done, I thought.
Are we talking about early on in the series where Yahiro's brother dies?
Yeah, Yahiro's brother dies.
Yep.
Yeah.
I thought that was probably one of my favorite episodes, honestly.
Don't like that episode, actually, because there was not too much justification in the plot for the things that were going on. And so the justification of, like, kill me so that you can save me did not feel earned to me, personally.
No.
But like, I do like that the events of that episode led to a very interesting, like, reaction from both Yahiro and from Shu.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, when I say it's about one of my favorite episodes, it's largely just because of the way it actually sets up the plot and works it actually into a much larger payoff.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. And again, it's part of the first half of the show, which, again, is palatable.
I would say
it's inoffensive.
I kind of liked the first half.
I was actually really hyped for the mid-season finale because that was actually really great. Like the fact that he was using everyone's voids that we've already seen and like working together with them in order to do this. And then you get like these really neat and interesting revelations with like Mana and oh shit, Mana's his sister. Like, it's weird, but they at least did that in a way that I was like, yeah, I'm on board. That's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing about it is ultimately like, I am very much of the opinion that this is a lot like Sword Art Online. I feel as though if they had stopped at the end of the first arc and had that be the end of it, this would have been a pretty great show.
No, I really didn't like the first arc of Sword Art Online.
Okay, and that's fine, but I just genuinely think it's a pretty compelling first, like, 10 episodes for a show. Guilty Crown.
Yeah, if it had just been the first 12, I think I would have rated the show much higher in my mind, because like at that point, even the things that I find objectionable with this show, like at the worst, it's like forgivable, and it's one of those situations in which I can just be like, yeah, it's fine. It's just like an entertaining one core, and then you move on.
Right. And the thing is, like, you know, I talk a lot about how it rips a lot from Code Geass, and I mean, like, yeah, it does, but I mean, it also, and to be fair, like, if we look further on down the line, around the end of the show, it rips off, like, say, Gurren Lagann and things of that nature with the kind of the balls to the wall scale and structure it takes. But, I mean, it was 2011. Like, who wasn't ripping off Code Geass at that point? It was iconic.
It was a pretty big show for its time.
It did borrow an incredible amount from it, which was excessive, and it really didn't stand up on its own. But, like, yeah, as far as, like, an entertainment standpoint goes, like, I would have given it a pretty decent, like, 6 or 7 or so. Like, it's okay. It was fun. I enjoyed it.
It's a little more than what I would give. But
if I took
closer to like a 6.
So this is what I was thinking. So if we're kind of basing it off just the first arc, which, by the way, I would like to point out that during like the last couple episodes of the first arc, like I would say like 10 or 11, I was thinking exactly, there's like 12 more episodes. What are they going to do with this?
Exactly.
That was definitely a thought that was running through my mind constantly.
I agree with you, Zach. It's a very Gurren Lagann kind of show, because all of a sudden, like, it not only like raises the bar in like action and like intensity and the stakes, it then just fucking skyrockets that shit into space, like after a certain point.
Yeah, like you were saying, Matt.
Well, yeah, I just think that the first arc was a pretty, you know, it was the standout part of the show for me, at least.
Yes.
And it definitely felt like that was where the bulk of the I don't know, that's where the bulk of my enjoyment of the show comes from. As far as the rating goes, yeah, I would say that I would give probably a 6, maybe 6.5, maybe.
Yeah, the first one core, I would give it a, like, it's very hard to disassociate what I just watched from the first core, but
yeah, because man, you're coming literally right fresh off finishing.
Yeah, literally thing. I joined the call just as soon as I wrapped up. I would probably say I would have given the first 12 episodes a 6 out of 10, but
it's just rough.
So here's the problem. Here's the problem with Guilty Crown on the whole.
This is going to be a recurrent thing from us,
and we're probably going to say this a lot, so I'm going to apologize in advance, but honestly, if you took out the writing of this show, if this was if you
and
took
had
out
an empty shell of an anime, it'd actually be a pretty cool empty shell.
they should have Inori'd the show.
I was about to say that. This is
might
the greatest metaphor.
But maybe not the best time. But if they would have done that, then I mean, you can't just strip all the writing out from a show, understandably. But if you could, this show would be a lot better.
Okay, but like, yes, and like, I mean, if you can't. So to be fair, they could Gurren Lagann the show in another way, because like, Gurren Lagann, like, it's it's got a story and such, but like it's
Never
full
seen
of
Gurren
ass
Lagann for
pulls
reference.
and everything else. Oh, okay, but whatever.
There's
it's
an
pretty
immense
solidly
amount-
style over substance.
Yes, that is absolutely
that's
what
the
I would
thing.
define
It is the rule of cool, as they say. And so I mean, like, if you were just doing this as like a very hyper stylized kind of combat sort of show that didn't take itself and its plot too seriously, this could have been a really cool
Yeah,
show.
I could see
I would have
that.
liked this a lot.
The universe that they show in the anime is actually really interesting as far as like the way that the mechs work and the sci-fi, and then on top of that you have these alien aspects and elements that are introduced. That's all neat. Like, if it was given to another show.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's just the whole show needs to be rewritten, in my opinion. But that's
If
just me.
they
It does.
if they Sword Art Online like the redo of the light novels that the author is doing, if they did that for like this show, I feel like I could probably actually enjoy it.
Yeah, because that's the thing. Like, there literally could be a really interesting show in here, given all of the different components and parts that make up this thing in total. But just, man, the way it is executed and the just absolute complete lackluster writing, especially for the second half of the show, just
Sweet
throw this
fuck.
into a dumpster fire and then kick it down a mountaintop.
So
It is a nightmare.
let's talk a little bit about the second half of the show, since that's probably what most of the problems and / discussion is going to come from.
Well, I will say I did have some issues with the first half that are just going to be like real quick to state. Like,
Yeah, let's address those first if we're going like
Okay.
in terms of like first and second halves.
This is one of the few times, actually this is the only time since we've been like actually releasing these on iTunes that I actually took notes for the show while I was watching it because I had to. But yeah, it's my initial thing that I was upset with this show with for the first half was just that the protag is literally every trope rolled into one. Like,
He's a Gary Stu on steroids.
he's he's stupid. He's ignorant, but for some reason he gains power from that. Like, the dude is conflicted about everything, including even tying his shoes. But for some reason, like, he's the person that becomes the leader of the group. And then you have this constant thing of like, he claims ownership over Inori. Shu does.
Mm-hmm.
And then that extends not just in Nori, but multiple other women in the show, in which they are shown as competent and capable, but then somehow not. Like, random points in the show, within the story and the writing, at random points, these women suddenly lose all sense of competency and lose all sense of being able to take care of themselves, and then they require the main character or somebody else to take care of them. And it makes no sense. It genuinely and truly makes no sense. And I was always very weirded out about that whenever it came to a lot of the women in this show.
Yeah, it's not the greatest, and it also, man, I really have issues with like the amount of like Soul Calibur jiggle physics that they give to Ayase.
Oh my sweet
Yeah,
fuck! It's
that
not
was,
even.
a
It's
little
definitely
excessive.
her among like above everybody else, because even
is.
whenever she's like on the ground dying, they give her boob physics. But
Yes.
like,
Are-
that happened.
on top of that, there's just the other characters too that like the show tends to have those shots where it doesn't really care about the cinematography as much as it cares about showing girls' ass.
And
especially the last episode, it felt like such a weird oscillation between,
gosh,
hey,
yes.
are you horny? And let's wrap the show up.
Yeah, it's so weird, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, and anyway.
But yeah, those were my issues. Also, this show is like mildly racist. Did anybody else catch that? Every person that was not a native Japanese individual in the show is shown as incompetent and stupid. Particularly
How many
the
characters
American.
were there? the American.
I was perfectly okay with the American being a dumb asshole. That was fine.
I mean, yeah, you can say that, but at the same time, they also extended that to not just him, but he was representing an entire group of the United Nations that currently claim ownership over Japan. And there were multiple times that people that were main characters in the show stated very nationalistic tendencies. Not only like, let's take pride in our country, and, you know, we should make sure that we are a country of ourselves. They were like, no, we're not only a country for ourselves, we will actually fucking kill other people. And it's like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Surprising that you went there.
I mean, I guess they're still terrorists, so...
Even people that were not the terrorists, people that were in line with the United Nations group. Like, it's just... There was a weird undercurrent that rubbed me the wrong way, especially in this day and age of 2018, 2019, in which, like, we are seeing some real fucked up nationalistic stuff happening in multiple countries. And so I think for the time that I am watching this, it felt a little skeevy, like a little bad.
So as a brief crossover, there's also a subplot of nationalism in Code Geass, where...
Well,
no, I'm not kidding, because
well, you said that they were trying to bring back Japan. Oh.
Yeah, because the Kingdom of Britannia has annexed Japan, and like the Japanese are literally called 11s because they live in District 11,
so they don't even refer to them as a country at that point.
Yes, and so I think in a way, and again, I can't just say everything is like them trying to like crunch on Code Geass's flair, but man, I mean, like, if the shoe fits. Yeah. So it kind of feels like just a really shitty way of implementing that.
Here's the thing,
which
you
is
can
a lot of these different issues.
Yeah, you can have national pride. And I think it's cool to have a show that says, you know, let's let Japan be Japan, as long as they're not stating anything about other countries and other nations. But man, does this show drop the ball on that front. At least in my mind. So it just rubbed me the wrong way, but it was really, in the grand scheme of things, it was such a minor undercurrent and complaint to
honestly,
the other things in the show.
Honestly, I just kind of chalked it up to bad writing. Just
see, that's
I just kind of like no, I didn't want to
sweep
not to sweep it under the rug, but I just wanted to say, like, yeah, I just thought it was just that was just part of the bad writing. Was just this is just another factor of this.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a situation in which, like, I do agree with you. It comes down to the bad writing, because honestly, they could have done it and they could have done it well, and then they just didn't because it had bad writing. But it's just one of those, like, accidentally racist things to me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. Like, it's not good either way.
Yeah.
But
anyways, I'm sorry. You all keep going.
Any other grievances with the first half?
No, I just want to ask a question. Does anybody know? Does the writer of this show have any relevance to Code Geass? Just asking.
That would be interesting.
That's a great question. Hold on. Script and series composition.
Can we? Yeah, I'm just curious, because if it is the same writer, we could at least get some obvious clue ends.
Oh well.
Yeah.
He was the assistant series comp for both seasons of Code Geass.
All right, well.
What the actual fuck? Are you kidding me, Chief?
So he just wanted to make another season of Code Geass, but okay, well. He's not in charge of it. The series gets a second season. But,
oh my gosh, that's beautiful.
But I don't understand why you would take... I guess
Oh no.
I don't know. I don't know anymore, guys.
I don't know how I didn't just look this up in the first place.
Well, there's your similarities right there.
Wow, yeah, I mean, like...
Any other things about the scriptwriter we should know before we move on?
I think let's just go. I think let's just leave some stuff up to the mysteries of the universe.
One last thing. I'm sorry. This is my last minor rant before we move on to the shit that actually matters. In the first half, there's very much there's not undercurrent. There's this very overt current of Inori shown as competent and shown as a capable killing machine and being able to do these amazing things, and she has intelligence. But then for some reason she's so ignorant to everything, and then she comes off as innocent. In the same scene in which she, like, snaps a dude's neck, she'll be like, but does she love me? And it's like, but what is love? Can you explain it to me? And it's like, fucking what? Why are you doing two different things with this character?
Yeah, it's kind of a bummer because consistently throughout the show, Inori could be this very interesting character,
yes.
but she is written in such a way that she is just the most uninteresting Mary Sue possible.
Not even a Mary Sue. I would not even give her the credit of having capacity and ability of her own. Because as we see when the show goes on, she starts off as somebody who is objectified. And then as the show goes on, she literally just becomes an object.
Yeah.
That's the second half, so we can get into that.
Yeah, I was pretty disappointed with the portrayal of her character. I mean, if you want to call that a portrayal, even. But
at some point, they literally just stopped writing her, but then she was just there in the scenes anyways.
I mean, yeah. I don't know. I was just disappointed. I usually like characters like that, but I was just disappointed.
You can, I would argue you can do that well. Erica 7, I think, is a great example of somebody who follows that trope of, this person who is capable of killing, but is, in general, innocent and relatively ignorant to human existence. Because they did that well because the character had agency, the character was capable at any time, and the character was not just an object to the main character. And so I think that was a great portrayal of that trope, and I would highly advise anybody, if they're interested in that particular style of character, to watch Erica 7. But in this case, it was not done well.
Yeah, I haven't seen Erica 7 either. So
I'm the only person in this group.
The sad thing is that this is a 2011 show, and my knowledge of 2011 anime is garbage. So
my dude.
Yeah, I got back in I think 2012.
2013. I didn't even start until
2014, actually. So,
I just had that bad spring right before the summer of summer of 2014.
Summer 2014.
So the bad spring was whenever I managed to watch I think it was upwards of 500 episodes of anime for in a month. Depression's a hell of a drug. But yeah, no, you guys should watch it sometime. It's good.
I definitely plan on it. Okay. It has to be better than the second half of Code Geass.
This is Guilty Crown.
Yeah, shut up, man. Look, we've been talking so much about it. It has to be better than the second half of Guilty
Let's get
Crown.
Into it. Yeah, let's get into the second season. What made the second season bad in comparison to the first?
I mean, if there was a second season of this, I would scream.
The second core, basically.
So something that was so consistently off-putting to me was that they spent the entire first half of the show setting up specifically these different characters and their motivations, and even though it wasn't done well, we still had a pretty solid grasp on who these people were as actual people.
Yes.
And the second half of the show pretty solidly sought out to completely turn all of that on its head for no real good reason.
Almost immediately.
It's we started over.
Pretty much, yeah, because
we started over with new characters that just share the same name.
You were talking, because I know you got past the first half, and you're like, it's like I'm watching the first few episodes again. What the hell? Is this a repeat? And it's just, it is so odd that they decide to flip these characters as flippantly as they do, because I mean, for instance, with Guy, the leader of Funeral Parlor, is this very noble dude. He has a very specific idea of wanting to liberate the people of Japan. He has good reason for it. He has good cause for it, and he's genuinely, even though he's a hard ass, he's a really good guy who genuinely cares about people. And when he is resurrected in the second half,
I was gonna get to that. Yeah,
he is just primo edgelord for no good reason whatsoever.
The character that is resurrected is a completely different character. And if they explained it away that he was resurrected using the crystals from this alien shit, and so he's completely, like, basically not even the same person, like his soul's not even in that body, that would be one thing. They never explained that. They never explained why this character behaved and acted and just in its entirety was a completely different character.
I almost want to say they counter-explained it because they just fell back to some of the original traits of his original character. So,
yes,
right, and that's the thing, because it went back to him just being a hard ass, but it took out all the other motivations that he had that kind of like made him that way. To where, like, you know, he had to be a hard ass to be a competent leader at Funeral Parlor because they were doing rough stuff.
Yeah,
they were even though they were doing good things, they were still terrorists in a particular sense, and he has to take responsibility in that sense.
Yes.
But once he's resurrected, it's just his personality becomes fuck you, more or less. You know, there's no real reason for it. And then what's even worse is, you know, after he's defeated by Shu, he goes back to this, like, happy, like, brotherly kind of, I hope you do well, go get Inori kind of thing. And it's just like, what the fuck? If you were this way, why couldn't you have just been like this from the get-go? What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Why did you have to be an absolute asshole if you still have the capacity to be a decent human being?
And the show...
What's the fucking point?
Yeah, and the show even has a moment in which the main character even is specifically written out to yell at him in the middle of their battle. Hey, you used to be this way. Why are you so different now? And his only answer is, you would never understand. And then they just continue fighting.
Yeah.
Like, and that's the only explanation that we as an audience get. Because later on he says, hey, in that battle you asked me why I'm this way. And this way is because I'm this way. Like, he literally defines it by the own statement of it. Like, it makes no sense. It's like whenever you look up something in the dictionary and it says, like, institution, and it says relates to institutionalize. And it's like, what? That doesn't tell me anything.
Institutionalize.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Relates to institution. Yeah. It's like a feedback loop.
It's redundant at that point. Is this? I hate it.
Oh god! And if we want to talk about redundant too, do we want to talk about just like the evolution of man subplot that pops up?
Because which
wow,
one?
wow,
You mean the constant,
wow.
incessant discussion about like how man is in their next stage of evolution? Here's the thing about Guilty Crown. I haven't seen Code Geass. So my only point of reference while I was watching this, I don't know if you guys have seen it, but it was it's a little bit older now. There's a movie that came out in the early 2000s called Evolution. It was a comedy.
No.
Here's how the plot for this goes. A mysterious meteorite rock lands on Earth.
Oh god.
It is inspected by these
going.
people, and they find out that it has a virus in it, a virus bacteria that is able to manipulate, and eventually it forms its own like consciousness and form, and begins evolving. And as it begins evolving, there's all this shit, like the military's called in, there's all these crazy creatures, and then at the end of it, there's this birth of a new, like, not humanity, but a birth of this new alien that will take over the world, and humanity will be dead.
Oh, that's that is an astounding. That's a weird link.
And
to
you know
say.
what's hilarious about that?
I don't
like
this
any of the
movie
words
was
you just
a
said.
comedy. Because it knew it couldn't take itself seriously. It was like, this is the stupidest fucking shit. They kill the bad guys at the end, the alien, with shampoo.
Yeah. So
I feel like
here's the
Guilty
thing.
Crown would work better as a comedy.
I feel like it would.
Like, if it was a weird, ironic black comedy, like just like really weird, dark humor, sure. I somewhat like. Part of me doubts sincerely that they ever saw that film. But,
it was such like a minor blip on the radar.
Yeah,
that movie.
But like but still,
That's funny though.
It is. It's a weird coincidence, but like, man, it's so. Here's the thing. Where the whole show from the get-go actually kind of this discussion of evolution or social Darwinism or some kind of like higher ideal there.
Extreme misinterpreted Darwinism, yeah.
Sure, yeah. Then this could have potentially like worked as a subplot, worked in like big air quotes. But the thing about it is, when you go and introduce this kind of subplot at like the very ass end of a show that is very much not about high-minded concepts or anything like that, it just feels like you are trying way too hard to be a lot smarter of a show than you actually are. And that comes up in a couple of different things, because I mean, for instance, so like where they're talking about the secret society, the Doth.
I have words like about that and that character that represents them. Yeah.
So the other thing about this is we get this look at the weird, like, blonde alien boy that represents the Doth, which is like the representation of like mankind's collective consciousness or some bullshit like that.
Bullshit that makes
I didn't even really understand the point of him, but
he literally has no origin story. He is just a Satan metaphor implanted into the show in the mid-season finale, and then there's really no rhyme or reason for him being there, and he doesn't really contribute.
Cool.
A Satan metaphor to go along with the rest of the biblical interpretations of the show as well, like the Adam and Eve and the Lost Christmas.
Because he even offers the apple, and then they don't even take it. Like, yeah.
Yep. This show is just... the last couple episodes are just ass pull after ass pull after ass pull.
I've never seen so many Deus Ex Machinas in my life.
I know, it's like an Ouroboros, just like 10 dudes with arms coming out of their assholes, like grabbing out of the next dude.
Oh my god, this is a horrible imagery.
No. You want to picture that where they're grabbing something out of their assholes, but then like their assholes glow, and it turns out that's actually where their void is, and they just pull out like a weapon, and then the next person has to draw it out of the other person's asshole. Oh my god, that's exactly.
It's an infinite circle of it.
Yes,
that's what I'm saying. And, and I just like Guilty Crown was never about anything like that. From the very start, it was just talking about, hey, you know, I'm some high school kid that's a fish out of water right now because I have powers that I have no idea what to do with.
And where do these come from? Like, that was basically the overall question of the first core.
Sure, and like, and that's the thing, like, I can understand that a show might not show all of its cards initially. That's the point. You have to build dramatic tension and some twists here and there. Right. And I can respect that if it's done well. But when the conceit of it is essentially halfway through, we get some weird character that is way overpowered and we have no explanation for it. And then by the end of the series, we still don't really have a good explanation for him. Only that, like, his secret, like, ancient organization is name dropped one or two times. And he's like, yeah, I just kind of am like the collective will of it. Whatever. It's cool. And just refers to himself in like the royal third person. Or the royal plural, rather. And I just, it's so frustrating to see that essentially the villain is a big nothing.
A big nothing
one is
that's
defeated,
never explained.
Nothing is overcome.
Yeah.
And nothing is explained. Yeah.
And they also didn't have any overarching bearing on the plot.
They didn't, because like the larger thing was the struggle against the apocalypse virus and against a tyrannical like government coup at this point. And then how you fight against that. And it was very much a human drama up to this point where they decided, well, I guess we got to end this somehow. We got to have a bigger villain to fry. And so they just pull this out of nowhere. And it's just, I don't know,
felt
dude.
hollow.
It really did. Yeah. And it's not like I expected anything much from this show anyways, but it was still like disappointing to see that even the last episode had so little dramatic tension to it or build up or anything remotely resembling a satisfying payoff. It felt like it completely and utterly wasted my time.
It kind of felt
and
like...
that was infuriating.
Yeah.
It kind of felt like you it's kind of like where if you're in school and you just saw two like shrimp kids like just yelling at each other, be like, I'm gonna fight you next week, and then they like hype this up. They got posters all over the school, and then they slap each other a few times, and then when that week comes around, then that's it. Like, that's what it's like. Like, and it's like, this is like, y'all just hyped this up for nothing. Like, I realized that was like the most off the cuff metaphor I could have come up with, but bear with me.
No, but it works, and I hate it.
Especially if like you picture this in like a middle school setting, because the edge is there, like the edginess of the whole thing.
Of course.
I'm gonna kick your ass.
Yeah.
You shit. I'm gonna kick your ass. Oh.
Oh, fuck.
But that's what this is, though.
Guilty
Yeah.
crown. Da-da-da-da-da.
Oh. Also,
That's essentially what the final battle amounts to, though.
yeah.
Like, can we talk about how genuinely uninteresting the last battle was?
You know
in this
how
fucking
bullshit
show.
that was, though, for me? As somebody who has such a deep, deep love for music and musical cues and, like, a lot of, like, leitmotifs, I was so fucking pissed that the composer was so good at his job, because that battle was bullshit. But at the very end of it, what they did was so fucking clever musically, because they took this song that was the embodiment of Inori, the song that she always played in order to, it was basically the song of healing for this series. And it was constantly used thematically at various different moments that were very good, including even the mid-season finale that we all enjoyed, where like Shu is fighting with his friends up to like save Inori, and Inori singing in order to like delay the inevitable, and then all of a sudden she sees Shu is headed for her, and she like just belts it out, and it becomes like this powerful anthem. Fucking great. And then in the final battle, she has this thing where she's no longer Inori, she's Mana, but then she has this last song, and it's her singing with this undertone and current of this like deep dark synth, and it's this constant battle between that synth and Inori singing, and all of a sudden like it starts hitting these fucking beautiful chords that were like straight out of Nine Inch Nails. It was amazing.
Yeah, and like the way it takes the original version of like Departures, like that first ED, and consistently like remixes it, and
that was my
shakes
favorite
it up in
version
such an
of that
interesting
song.
way. It's so good.
It's so good.
You're right. It's infuriating that like
the action on screen is so
like,
bullshit.
It did, because the show like did one of my favorite things ever in anime. They did the fucking thing where they bring back like the OP or the ED from the beginning of the show, and bring it out at a climactic point.
Really hit
and
those heartstrings.
It sucks because there's no payoff for it. It's such a boring fight because I can't even really call it a fight.
To be
it's
honest, like we were
Guy
talking
and
about
Shu
how
are
well
talking at each
animated the
other,
battle
and
scenes were before this. There was no animation for the battle scene.
There was
between
nothing
these
to
two
animate.
characters. It kept cutting to everybody else and what they were doing, and then we would come back for like 2 seconds, and then be like, "Oh, okay, they like clash swords for like a split second," and then we cut back to everybody else.
And that's the infuriating thing, because they did such a really cool job of creating these battle scenes where it is like this idea of the mechs versus the use of voids, and how these different kinds of weaponry conflict and clash with each other, and that makes for such a dynamic, interesting kind of actual action sequence. And when you basically have literally two dudes with fucking Sephiroth-sized swords, like, who cares? What is interesting about that? We've seen this in every fucking anime ever.
Yeah, and if you're gonna pull a Sephiroth sword battle, like, Advent Children did it way fucking better than you. Like,
yeah, I know, and they had like 7 to 12 minutes to pull that off, anyways.
Gosh, that was
like,
so well animated.
You weren't we're not here talking about Advent Children, but it's fucking good.
I would love to.
But like, man, it's there's so much frustrating about this because to circle back to what we said earlier on, there is so much interesting, like genuinely cool stuff about this show. And I really would have loved to have seen this if it was put in some competent hands. But man, like it does not do anything even remotely interesting.
Yeah,
And
my discussion about the
infuriating.
Yeah, my discussion about the music is basically like if you took a sound designer and a composer that are like a team, and they are Oscar worthy. Like they have already won like multiple Oscars, and then you had them composed for like The Room or some bullshit movie like Batman Forever. Like it's just bad, and like they had nothing to work with, but gosh dang it, they're trying. Like that's what that music and sound design is to this anime, because it's just everything on screen is just so bad.
I'm kind of curious.
Yeah,
I want to know if this is like I didn't look this up, so you're just gonna have to bear with me. I wanted to look and see if Sawa knows this was his first show.
I don't think it was. I if I remember right, because I looked up his Wikipedia page, he had done a bunch of stuff by this point.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think you're right.
But
can't get to it at the moment, but I'll get confirmation on that in a few minutes.
Yeah.
But one thing I wanted to add, as far as like stupidity goes in this show, episode 15, by the way, like I was just disappointed with everything that happened.
So many words about episode 15. It's just, oh my gosh.
Oh my god.
I am trying to remember what episode in 15.
That's whenever it does the big
that's
turnaround
when
towards
Hari
the fascist.
dies.
Yeah, Yahari dies, and they have this fascist state in the schools. In the school. You guys go first on that one.
Okay, so I'm just gonna state the obvious. Hari died. Why didn't she heal herself first? Just want to throw that out there. Is that like, was there an unwritten rule that like voids can't affect yourself? Like, did I just miss that?
No, like they clearly can, and there's Hari died because they wanted Hari to die, so Shu would have some reason to go full edgelord. No, I know that you get that, but it's frustrating that is the only explanation for it, because there is literally no good reason why she should have died.
Because I felt like she was an intelligent person.
She is. She genuinely is, and that is something that has been shown throughout the show. Because I mean, like even early on. Like after Shu's incident where he has to kill Yahiro's brother, and he is in his kind of fugue state, and he and her are in the warehouse, and he tries to get her to like kiss him and such, and he's like, well, you love me, right? And she just smacks the ever-loving shit out of him.
Oh, that's right.
Because she's like, you can't just use me. I'm not just something to be used. Like, she is clearly a very self-aware, intelligent, like genuinely interesting character. And yeah, it just sucks that she is basically written to be like Shu, and the only thing that she's capable of doing is crawling towards him to try to heal him, and it is absolute horseshit that she dies the way she does. There's no good reason for it.
I mean, that was... I'm not even one to, like, poke, like, plot holes into freaking anime. Like, I don't... Like, I know some people, like, are really good at, like, seeking them out and then, like, criticizing an anime to death about them. I'm not one of those people, typically. But, yeah, that moment right there, I literally just, off the cuff of my... Like, just off the cuff, I was like, why didn't she do that? And I was like, that... What? And then I just kind of... At that point, everything that followed that until like episode like, I don't know, after that I was just almost done. I was just like, you know what? I don't even know. And I walked away for a little bit.
The amount of completely inconsequential characters that lived in comparison to Hare dying is infuriating.
Yeah.
Just because we have all these like completely worthless characters that don't add anything whatsoever to the story, but they're like, no, they're cool, they're good, they're fine, they're okay.
There was that one chick with like the black hair. That I don't even remember. Like, she showed up like several times in the anime. I don't even know if she was given a name, honestly.
The one with the glasses?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, she's part of the main crew,
But what'd she do? She lived.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any clue why she was there. Anyway, that's just a nitpick.
But I think that's a larger symptom of an issue with the show in that it never to me at least, it never gave me any reason to get invested in any of these characters.
No, there's no reason
whatsoever.
Absolutely.
The only exception to that
not a
rule
good character
is
drama.
the student council president, Arisa. I was very invested in her going into the latter half of the show because I just fucking hated her. That was my investment.
Interesting. I was invested in Hare because she was like the only character in the show that had any decent thought.
I'm also sorry.
And Guy was cool. Like,
honestly,
I liked
Guy before he got resurrected was actually a great character and well written.
Yeah, he was, which was a really weird anomaly because he had a lot of really solid character arc and development.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I don't know. Like at every point, the show seeks to get us to not give an ever-loving shit about any of their characters. There's no reason why we should care about any of them at all. And any emotional, like, payoff or investment that any of them has is just, it falls flat. I mean, like, again, like, at the end of the show, when Guy, after being edgelord, goes all soft for, like, a minute before he dies, like, are we really supposed to care? Like, are we supposed to be like, oh, I'm sorry you're dying? Like,
to be honest,
why
it's
should
like,
we be at all invested
in
any of your characters? You have done nothing to endear them to us.
And that's
whatsoever.
true for Shu as well. Like, starting episode 15, moving towards the end, in which you see this character become the worst pile of shit, and then never even, like, openly apologize for it. Like, sure, he had a couple moments where he was like, yeah, I really fucked up, didn't I? But let's keep going. That's completely unacceptable behavior to, like, actively torture individuals and start a fucking government about being prejudiced towards individuals and then kill some individuals for your own gains and means.
Yeah,
and we're supposed to care about this character whenever he moves towards this final battle and he's like, I thought about what I did, and I'm not going to do that again. And it's like, no, you don't get the easy way out.
Fucking congrats, dude.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't understand how we're supposed to care about Shu. I really just don't get it, because especially when we get to the end, you know, he has done awful things, and as you're saying, he has not done anything much beyond apologizing or trying to atone for that or whatever.
No.
Like, his taking on Apocalypse Virus is just, he's looking to be a martyr because, like, oh, well, I have to do this now.
He's like, I have to do this because I fucked up, so I'm going to literally take the cancer from you and then put it into my own body. And he's only doing it out of obligation rather than because he actually feels sad for what the fuck he did.
But beyond that, the most infuriating thing is that at the very end, when he defeats Guy and the Doth or whatever, and starts taking on, like, all of the Apocalypse Virus from all over the world, and he's like, okay, well, I'm gonna die.
Yeah.
And Inori's like, hey, but what if you just live? And she just dies, and suddenly he is totally fine. He gets to live, and his only, like, quote-unquote issue is that he has a bionic arm, and he is blind.
Which, by the way, there's no explanation for why he's blind. He just is.
Nope. No explanation.
Yeah.
No reason for it. And so he just gets to essentially live through all this absolute bullshit he did. And
at the same time, Inori, who is our character that has been hurt the most in this series, has to die.
Yeah,
it's really infuriating.
It's like just something Shu's redemption something.
Like, if Inori had lived and he had died, that would have been an infinitely better story. Because then we get to see, like, no, you have died for your sins. You are fulfilling this Jesus metaphor, rather than, like, we're gonna do a Jesus metaphor, but, like, not the whole way, because we kind of feel bad for Shu, and we want him to live.
Yeah, instead we get our show just hates women, and we're just gonna go ahead
Yeah,
and
they
go
just
do that
sacrificed
instead.
Nori instead. That just
Which,
sucks.
can we talk about Arisa in the latter half? Because she completely changed character on top of everybody else. Because it started with the whole thing where, like, they're isolated from the parents and adults, and so the student council president is like the person technically in charge of the school. She went from this incredibly, insanely intelligent and competent individual to literally cannot even tie her shoes. And then, like, and so Shu has to be the one that takes over. And then in order to bring that down, she has to literally get raped. That was the first thing that happened. And then she has to start a coup that fails, because she's apparently not as competent as Shu now for some reason. And then she gives up the ghost and, like, just gives away everyone in order to work for the bad guys because, oh, but I have a crush on someone that I liked at one point, literally for one episode.
And that's the fascinating thing to me, that she just drops everything because
she literally
she has
kills
a boner for
multiple
Guy.
individuals because she's got a boner for Guy. That makes no sense.
Didn't she kill her, like, dad?
She
grandfather?
did.
She kills her grandfather.
She kills her own fucking father because for one episode there was a guy that didn't even say nice things about her, just negged her on and said, like, I'm attractive and hot and you're kind of cute, but you're not good enough for me. And then that's all he said. And all of a sudden she's like, oh, I'm madly in love with you and I'm going to literally kill my father for you. What?
Yep. I don't. I guess overall, the major points of this show boil down to its writing and pacing is just absolute shit garbage. And really, like, every other issue I have is, like, the characters do not have proper motivations. They completely switch characterization.
Nothing is
There
earned.
is no sense of consequences or stakes or anything.
There's
Like,
none of that for sure.
No, we are just not at any turn given any good reason to care about any person, any situation, anything at all that comes up in this show. And I just, like, I could talk about more episodes and things of that nature and more specifics.
I think we could poke holes in this all day.
I have made multiple
could, but
pages of griefs that I have with this show, but it's not worth it. It's not worth it to get into the nitty-gritty.
I think we've addressed all the main points.
That's the thing. I don't know what else I really have to say about this.
Because it's just going to all stem back to the same things we've already said, honestly.
Right. It is kind of like you said, Matt, it's a feedback loop. And we're just going to go back to these same grievances. And again, like, as much as I wish this show had did things differently,
it didn't.
Unfortunately. It didn't. And it had cool possibilities. It could have been something decent, but it wasn't. And, you know, for whatever reason that happened, I don't know. We can theorize, but it's just not worth it.
There's a lot of theories out there. I mean, if you Google, everyone's just like, what the fuck?
Mm-hmm.
So let me ask you about that, Matt, because you've probably researched this. What are people's feelings on this show? Because I remember before we started the podcast, you had mentioned that when this show came out, it was a very popular show.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people definitely were watching it. I think it had to do a lot with the staff behind it. The production IG was a pretty big studio at the time.
At the time, it was probably one of the larger ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
One of the ones that people actually knew, especially in the West.
And especially if I remember right, for mech anime, right?
I don't know about that fact in particular, but okay. I do know that it was, you know, it's. If you probably would have mentioned Production IG, people could have been like, like they would have known kind of who that is. Like, oh, they made this anime or that anime. Whatever.
Yeah, they have made, until, like, I would say, like, 2010, actually more than that, they keep coming out with these shows that are just, like, genuinely just actually fantastic and, like, very much hold up over time. So it's...
Yeah, I will always be happy that Production IG worked on Psycho Pass.
Yes. as well as Ghost in the Shell. Like,
Mm-hmm.
they're well known for doing incredible things. It's just so interesting and surprising and unfortunate whenever they just fucking drop the ball.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, the popularity of the series at the time, there's a lot of hype behind the show, and then, you get the two kinds of people: the people that love it, and you get the people that, just think it's a dumpster fire. Which is always interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, that's basically the opinions out there. You'll see people asking questions. There's a bunch of theories about what the symbolism of the show is. Like, people either go really deep into it. People sometimes don't care to go into it. Whatever. Like,
let me just go ahead and stop this here. The symbolism is literally written on the sleeve of this show. Like, it's not deep at all.
Yeah, but I guess people. Okay, so this is what I'm thinking. So maybe people think it's deep only because the writing is just so incomprehensible in certain parts.
It's like there has to be something more here.
They try to like weave it all together in some kind of justification, even though they're just weaving a whole bunch of random plot points together.
Yeah,
kind of like what the anime does. But anyway, I've read some stuff, but it's interesting, but it's not like, I don't know, nothing really. You're not missing out. No revelations.
Yeah.
No, pretty solidly not.
As a fun fact, I'm looking on Mao here. I just saw this randomly. Scriptwriter Kumagaya Jun from Persona 4 said that apparently when this series came out, he saw the disc medias of Guilty Crown sold 10,000 copies, and he decided, which by the way, that's a lot of copies for this show.
Yeah.
And he said, although I'm concerned about it as a writer, although the animation graphics were great, the scenario was that quality.
What a good boy. What a good boy.
He ended up apologizing for the statement later.
Don't you fucking apologize for that. Don't you dare.
But yeah, I just wanted to point that out. And I think I said this, but it was Persona 4. He wrote the scripts of Persona 4 animation, some bunch of episodes. But there you go. Just a fun fact.
Ugh.
Bless.
I just thought it was interesting. It sold 10,000 copies. Like, wow, that's a lot of copies. But
yeah, and
look. To be fair, if you were looking on like Mal rankings, even though it's rated like a 7.7, popularity-wise, it's rated number 54.
Yeah.
So like a lot of people have watched this show.
Ranked.
And there's a lot of people that like it.
Says it's like ranked 1100 in the 1100s, but its popularity's in the like almost top 50. So.
Yep. And so I mean, like, I don't get it, dude. Like,
I don't know. There's always this subculture of people that I come across, and I don't want to talk shit about other people, but there's always like whenever I'm talking anime with various people like at work or something like that, in which I'm just genuinely surprised about what their favorite shows are, because I'm like, that's interesting. Okay. I don't know why you like that, but I'm also not going to hate you for it. Like,
yeah,
you're
allowed to like what you like.
Yeah, you do you.
You should also know that you're liking shit. So
yeah, but to be honest, some of these people are the same types of people that are like, oh yeah, I watched that last Isekai show, and like, man, the tits were huge on those characters. So I have a conflict of opinions with people.
There's differing priorities.
We're just in a different circle.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like I said, different strokes for different folks, and some folks are doing a lot of strokes when they're watching anime. So
that was
if
a
that's
good
their
one.
prerogative, then you know what, whatever.
The show's not good.
Can we stop talking about Guilty Crown?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I think we're done.
Can we stop, please?
I'm done now.
Final verdict, don't watch the show. It's not good. It's not worth your time. If it was 12 episodes, it would absolutely be worth your time, because at least then it's a fun romp in a like misappropriated kind of story, but like 22 is too much.
I wouldn't really say it would be worth your time, but it wouldn't waste your time.
It's a fun one to get drunk and make fun of for 12 episodes, but I don't know if I would necessarily commit like 22 episodes to this.
I think it might be fun
much.
to get plastered and watch it.
No, I still can't even do that, Matt. I really can't. The amount of times that I have on this tally of there was either a rape metaphor or an actual rape in the show, I just can't recommend this one.
I thought parts of it were fun. But I, again, don't think I'd recommend it, honestly. Wouldn't be in my top, 150 shows. Or in the top.
The only good thing that we got out of this was Egoist, because, man, they did good music for Psychopaths.
It is...
Download the soundtrack.
Yeah, download the soundtrack. The soundtrack's actually
or buy the
kick-ass.
soundtrack. I guess you could do that too. But
and the OPs and EDs, yeah.
Yeah, go get all that.
Anyways, I guess that's it for this one. Yeah. We'll see everybody for another one. See you later.
See you next time.
Thanks for listening. A lot shorter, but not quite as sweet this time. Hope you stuck with us anyways. As always, you can find all our podcasts, articles, videos, etc. at thebackloggers.com. Our intro-outro song is The Bear by Shell in the Pit. You can find on Spotify as well as Bandcamp. And we'd love to hear from y'all either in the comments on our site or any feedback you want to leave us on whatever podcast platform you like. iTunes, Soundcloud, or in a better anime than the one we just watched. And as always, we're on Twitter at _Backloggers, so come hang with us. See you later.